Welcome everyone, Lousy Facelift here, and I want to make a new video on the MC-505 today, talking about the sequencer functions in this machine. If you're hearing a little noise from outside, I think someone's mowing the lawn somewhere, so please don't let that distract you. I want to get right to the point and start out by selecting a pattern here. And then first of all show you the recording setup menu page, because this is something that's also very often overlooked in the MC-505, and it helps a great deal to get the right settings for you when starting out a pattern. If you don't have an empty pattern available, you can initialize a pattern first of all. In order to do so, you need to hold down the shift button and then press the right key right here. You can also see that initialize is written in the same kind of box like the shift key. So like in many other cases, the way this is labeled tells you how this function is used. Okay, so yeah, let's just initialize this pattern. U6, are you sure? Enter yes. So now we have a blank pattern here, and we can go into recording mode and look at these settings for our recording. As a default setting, we have a 4/4 time signature that can be changed. And we also have 4 bars in this pattern, and I usually like to start out with just 1 bar, and then 1 or 2 bars actually, and then add on to that, so then I can copy stuff and make changes. And I'm going to show you how that works. Like I said, this is the time signature. In order to change this, I can use the value dial. I can change this to 2/4, 3/4, and so on, 5/4, 6/4. All these different time signatures are available. And in the newer machines, groovebox concepts that you find on the market today, this is usually done a little differently. You can find last step commands in other machines, and basically you get to the same result this way. For example, when looking at a 7/4 beat here, people find it a bit irritating to understand what this means. If we have a 4/4 pattern and we are using 16 notes here, then one of these keys, well, I get this awful sound again. Okay, I'm going to go to the drums. 1 bar is divided into 4 quarter notes, and each quarter note holds 4 16th notes, basically. So a 7/4 time signature would use not 16 notes, but I'd get a second bar, giving me an additional 12 notes now. And then when counting this kind of time signature, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. When you have a 4/4, you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's how this particular time signature could be used. And it's the same with all these other time signature. When you have an 8th time signature, 9/8, 7/8, whatever you have here, you can double this value. So 7/8 in this case equals 14/16. So you know that you have 16 pads here, and only 14 of these pads make 1 bar. So the cursor light would run from pad 1 to 14 and then cycle and go back to the first beat again. Yeah, I hope this is yeah, I hope this is understandable. That's your time signatures that you get in the 505. 19/16, like what you see here, means you get 16 16th notes and then an additional 3 in the next bar, and then it would repeat. So that's basically your loop length. Okay. Like I already said before, in the 505 you have combinable scales, and scales are not the same as time signatures. Scales are indicated by these black prints here above your pad keys, and you have two 4/4 scales, which is 3 and 4, and two triplet scales, 1 and 2. And you can start out a beat on a regular 4/4 scale and then switch to another scale at any point in the pattern and record triplets on top of what you've already made. And maybe I'm going to show you how that works, but let's first go through all these other assignments that you can make in the recording setup menu here. Here you can select your pattern length. As I said, I like to start out using only 1 bar most of the time, or 2 bars when I'm programming higher resolution scales, so that I can program 30 seconds notes. Then I usually go for 2 bars, but I'm going to keep this to 1 here. Now this is for the metronome, for the count in that starts after activating the recording. Then I get this count in either 1, 2, 3, 4 again for 4/4 beat here, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, a 2 bar count in. Or you can use this setting here. You can completely switch the count in off, or you could say wait for note, which means that the metronome, I think, then will start when the first note that I have recorded is played back. So I'm going to use a setting of 1 bar for my count in. Now the loop rest function, this is very useful for programming notes that overlap till the pattern is repeated. So let's say I have a 1 bar loop here and I want to program something on a note on at the end of the bar, maybe step 15 or 16 or so, but I want to keep this note. I want to have this note extended over the start point of the pattern and maybe last till, I don't know, maybe the end of the second quarter note here on pad 8. So I wanted to start this note here, then have the pattern repeat and end here. Then loop rest can be very helpful so that I can hold the note. This gives me an additional bar at the end of my pattern, and the note can be held and it won't cut off when the pattern repeats. So and then when I have recorded this note in its length that I want to use for this recording, then I can switch loop rest off again, and then the pattern will repeat after only 1 bar. Okay, but I'm not using this right here for my pattern resolution. This gives me the resolution for quantization in this case. This is the default setting with 16th notes. I could switch this to 24th or 16th triplets. That's basically the same thing. 30 seconds notes even, or I could switch this completely off, which is pretty cool if you have, especially if you have your keyboard connected, your MIDI keyboard or so, and you play this unquantized, so that small inaccuracies in timing are recorded just the way you play this. Or, I mean, there is a limitation. I think the 505 uses resolution when quantize is switched off of I don't know how many ticks. I think in this case we're talking about ticks per quarter note, and I think there are about 96 or so. Maybe that's I don't know. If you think of the a quarter note being divided into 4/16, and then you imagine one quarter note being divided into 96 pads, just for a time of one quarter note, that's the resolution that you get with quantized setting off. I think that's what it's like. Yeah, but I'm going to use the default setting here too. And now I could start the recording. I get 3 different methods of recording in the MC-505. If I wanted to make a real-time recording, I could now press play, and then I would get this 1 bar count in, and then I could start playing everything. Actually, I'm going to demonstrate this really quick. I'm going to try to something like this to record a beat straight. Yeah, let's see what the timing is. Okay. Something like this. This is already quantized now. Just very simple beat and no changes in dynamics or anything. This was all recorded on the same volume level, and so that's just a very basic beat here. So that's the first kind of method that you can use. If you want to use TR recording like you have in old classic drum machines like the 808 or 909, the TR machines that Roland put out in the 80s, this can be reached pressing the record button twice. So this is my setup screen. Oh, and there's one other thing that I want to mention about the recording setup screen. I have changed the length here to 1 bar, but let's say I've forgotten to change the length and I have used the default of 4 bars, and then I started the recording not realizing that this was still set to 4 bars, and then even without recording any notes, I press stop and then I try to change this setting. So I press record again, go to the screen. I would have a 4 assigned in here now. I couldn't shorten the length back to 1 simply by moving the value dial. In fact, I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. I'm going to clear the pattern again. And also interesting is that when I make a recording, this recording is always kept in the temporary memory slot, which means that I don't lose any changes. I can go back there at any time, but I have to realize that I need to use the write command and then save this pattern somewhere before switching the machine off, because I think then these changes will be lost. I'm not sure, maybe they're even still there, but this is just the temporary pattern screen here that's used for sort of a backup and not for permanent memory storage. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to initialize this again. Yes, complete. So now I should have a 4 bar pattern again, and now I have this pattern length set to 4 bars again. I now press play. I don't even want to record any notes, but if I now realize, oh, I wanted to change the length to 1 bar only, and now I try to change this, I cannot simply shorten the length of the pattern anymore. I could extend and add on to the 4 bars, but I cannot shorten them anymore. Okay, that's because this setup has already been saved in the pattern, and this has already been recorded. So in order to get back to a length of only 1 bar now, or not get back, but I now have to use the delete command here. Hold down edit and press delete. And now for all my tracks, I can decide how much of these measures should be cleared. So I want to keep only 1 measure. So, oh no, this is wrong actually. I want to clear from the first bar 3 bars. Now press enter. And now when I look at the screen, I have my pattern length set back to 1 bar again. So okay, let's talk about this second recording mode that I get into by pressing record twice. This is the TR record method now, and I can, oh wait. Okay, now when I press play, okay, now I get into this TR record mode. I still have to press play. Now I see this cursor light running over my 16 steps here, and I can choose an instrument by holding down shift and now selecting the sound that I want. So okay, I'm going to program the bass drum, and this light here tells me that I'm on a velocity value of 127. Okay, this is where I want to place my notes. If I wanted to use a different velocity setting, maybe for this beat right here, I could simply use these knobs here, and you can see that there are different velocity values under these keys here. So if I wanted to use a 60, and I could also change these values by holding down this key here, this button, and then changing to some value that's not even pre-assigned to these keys here. For example, lots of times a velocity value of 16 is still a bit too high for very, very subtle notes, especially when you're using them with a compressor. And in order to drop down the level even further, you can then hold down this button here and make your own assignment for this key. Okay. Yeah, so I want this as my bass drum for this track. Now I want to select a hi-hat. Okay. And I'm also going to, oh no, now I have to erase this again because that's a bit too low for my setting. I think I'm going to go for a velocity value of 69 here for straight on the downbeats of the quarter notes. And then I'm going to program eighth notes, but using a lower velocity value here. So now, okay, and you can see that sometimes the machine, there was a bit of a lag here, or what do you say, of a lap, time lap. Sometimes the machine needs a bit of time to catch up to the newly programmed information here. Now let's switch scales. As I said, we can switch scales at any point in the pattern. Now, when I switch to the scale number 3 for 30 seconds notes, I only get half a measure assigned on these pad keys here. Oh no, I've accidentally hit this one key. Okay, so now it's like it was. I can see that the cursor light also runs a lot faster through this bar now, and there's a second bar now that I don't get to see the cursor light anymore. And in order to reach the second half of this measure, I need to use the forward button here. And now the display with this little minus sign here, this tells me that I'm on the second half of the first measure. First half, second half. Okay. And I could now add 30 seconds notes. Okay, and you will hear them now. Almost a little roll here. Okay, and maybe I could even use triplets now in the same pattern. So I'm on a triplet scale right now, and you can see that for a triplet scale, only 12 steps are used. And some of the notes that I've actually recorded are not displayed in the triplet scale because they don't show up, because they don't, the triplet scale doesn't give you the same exact position for this note that you find in the 4/4 scale. That's why they are different. So let's see what happens when I type in something else here. Maybe here. Only at this point now in the pattern I have a triplet now. Okay, and for maybe to use all 4 different scales here, maybe I could also bring in scale number 1, which is again divided into 2 parts. And I'm going to put notes here. Okay, like this. You cannot do this with an electribe. Sad but true. But the electribes are still awesome. I mean, you know, I don't want to say anything bad about them because they're an amazing concept, very fun machine too. Okay, so I think I'm just going to, why not using a clap here on just to finish this off. This is my demonstration of the different scales and time signatures. And there's one last method of recording, which is step recording mode. And in step recording works, so you have to press this 3 times in a row now, and now you get this, you get your resolution of notes. This is a 16th note now here that I have selected. This can, actually I haven't really used step mode this much, but the way it works, it goes through all the steps of the pattern one by one, and you can decide on where you want the note to be, and then decide on the length of the note, which is gate time in this case, on also velocity of the note using the these keys right here again, like in TR record mode. You can also change the scales and make your assignments there. It's a similar way that's used in a TB303, for example, for these bass lines. Maybe I can try to record something in step recording mode, but I need to be on a instrument partner. Oh no, and I don't want to hear this awful TB patch there. I'm going to use this sound right here and try to see if I can come up with something interesting for step recording mode. Chances are it's going to sound like crap though, but okay, we are going to see. Maybe I just want, and now maybe something a little longer here. When I use the value dial, I can now change the note values here. And now maybe some 8th notes or something. And that's my bar already, I think. So let's see how that sounds. Doesn't sound too great, but that's just to demonstrate how this works. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.